Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15, radio built by volunteers.
Fall to Arash, you're listening to D15 today here on 92.5 Phoenix FM, and you can contact us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter on or by phone 01822 7222 if there's a story you'd like us to come to and investigate and share and celebrate with you. And speaking of celebrating, that's where I'm going next. Recently, Arts Minister Catherine Martin announced 10 new recipients for the Decade of Centenary's Markievicz Award for Artists, and one of my friends was celebrating this on Facebook because indeed her lovely daughter was one of those recipients, and she is a Blanchie, and I'm delighted to welcome Emily Even to the programme and to welcome you back to D15 today, actually, because you've been a guest some years ago, so thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Grania. It's a pleasure. Yeah, I think it was 2019 probably when I spoke to you last for the show I was making called Sorry Gold, but I'm not quite sure.
Yes, I'd forgotten it was indeed Sorry Gold. So first of all, let me start by, we'll come to your work then. I'll start by congratulating you because that's why you're here. And would you tell us a little bit about what these awards are? Because quite a range of people have been successful in attracting funding.
So I guess it's in honour of the Countess Markievicz, who was an artist as well and a key figure in the 1916 Rising. Mm-hmm. And the role of the award is to honour the role of women in Irish society historically and then connecting that to the contemporary world. So I think that it's open to everybody actually, but there was 10 women selected from different disciplines, and that includes myself, and my primary discipline is contemporary circus, but I do work very collaboratively, and usually my work is an integration of multiple art forms. But you still get that fantastical physical and material aspect of circus practice in the work. It's a lot of dance and aerial and physicality.
Yeah, aerial dance. I think I've seen your work before. I know when we spoke before, you probably had a piece in the Fringe Fest, or that would have been it. So circus is a word that conjures one image, but when you when you put in the subtitle and you go aerial dance, then you get ballet on beautiful silks with gorgeous music, and it's not just movement, because the movements are balletic and so energetic and so beautiful and so you must have a rubber spine, but it is beautiful. But it also tells a story that there's a lot of thought gone in. It's not just gymnastics. They're very creative pieces and thought-provoking pieces. I've very much enjoyed your work. Now, talk to me about the proposal that you had to put together for this, because this is funding, I suppose, for the process that will go towards producing a piece of work rather than the piece of work, the end product in itself. So it's more about research and thinking and the getting the creative juices flowing. And I know collaboration is big for you. So talk to me about what lies ahead for you.
Yeah, well, I guess a note just on circus practice, because it's a contemporary circus practice in Ireland is very new, and my approach to circus is intellectually engaged and also experimental. And I think that my work is more on the unique side in Ireland, but it does connect to a wider network of people exploring the discipline of circus and kind of challenging the form. So, like, historically, Ireland would have had a equestrian circus tradition. But over the last 10 years, it's developing a really vibrant contemporary circus community and sector, and it's really exploded over the last 10 years. And yeah, I guess, like, you know, we had a quick chat yesterday, and I was reflecting on that, and I guess really you had asked me, you know, is this a departure from your previous work? And I suppose I had already been experimenting a lot with aerial dance and circus practice, and you know, what that is, you know, because, well, Sorry Gold was about thinking about the connection between aerial dance and industrial technology, because circus kind of emerged from the Industrial Revolution. And so much of the material we use is metal and rope and industrial lengths of fabric. And during the lockdown, I had the kind of opportunity to really think about the decisions I was making artistically, and I felt this newfound courage to really explore the intellectual side of my own interests, which hadn't, I mean, you're right. Yeah, there is like definitely a concept behind a lot of the work, and the dance is very central. And I think dance in my work, like the position of dance is really important. You know, the non-rational aspects of artistic work, you know, not explaining everything, but just providing an energetic experience is really important.
And allowing your audience to engage with it and to get from it what each of them get from it.
Trusting the audience to engage.
Yeah.
And I suppose like part of what's interesting about the new departure in my more recent work is that I am trying to, I suppose, broaden even further what I've been doing. And I think there's like a trend now in art that, you know, disciplines very specifically aren't as relevant anymore because so many people are doing cross-disciplinary work, and
indeed many people are working collaboratively.
Yeah, exactly. So with the Markievicz Award, I'm hoping to work with some really interesting people. So I'd love to tell you about that.
Yes, please.
One is a harp maker, Brian Callan, who's based in Loughrea, and the project is drawing on my own family story. And my mother's from that area, so I like that connection. And my interest in working with Brian emerged from a project I did earlier this year, with a beautiful harpist called Aisling Ennis. And there was a lot of... She was actually heavily pregnant at the time when I was working with her, and there was this kind of theme that emerged along with her harp music practice, of which she's like exceptional. There was also this other narrative about birth and pregnancy, and it was fascinating to have those two things combined in our conversations, you know? So like when we think of the harp, you might remember it's a very obviously iconic object, but the top of the harp always reminded me of a spine. And, you know, because I'm a dancer...
And there's a very sensuous curve to that spine, indeed.
Well, absolutely, but it also matches our own spine, you know, like our own S shape that is naturally there. And it looks like a pregnant belly in another way as well. But like, when I think about the spine, I think about it like a personal fossil. You know, it's the tale of history that we're literally, you know, embodying. And I wanted to take this image and work with Brian to explore it as an object for dancing with, because when I was working with Aisling, I used to play the harp briefly. I didn't last very long, but I did have some kind of familiarity with it. And one of the things I love about the harp is that it tips in towards the body. So like when you're about to play it, you have to lean it in towards the body. And as a circus artist who works so much with objects, this connection with the instrument was fascinating to me. But also that the harp is like a cultural fossil. And of course, the music that the Irish harp plays is often Ireland that I have a lot of questions about, because really, and this kind of reflects the historical aspect of the Markievicz Award, it's like connecting the past to the present. And I guess I'm really interested in asking questions about the Ireland that was and the Ireland that's now in relation to the body, but also in relation to the language, which is emerging from, you know, the musical and poetry tradition.
Yeah,
so I guess the work...
This is a door that Monaghan McGann opens quite a bit, just the magic of the language and what the hidden riches that are there, and I suppose a connection, an umbilical connection to way back when, and to
I suppose
to ground us.
Yeah, like for me, because I'm not an Irish speaker, I have a curiosity about reclaiming some of that for myself. But it really occurs to me that Irish language culture is like a parallel culture, you know, that isn't always universally felt among Irish people. So part of what I'm interested in is exploring the life of my grandmother, and then on my paternal side, whose story is quite mysterious to me. And I want to be careful, like, you know, with my exploration of her life, not to just be harvesting her life for my own creative means. Like, I think privacy is underrated in a way these days, you know.
Yeah,
so
but there are lessons to be learned, though.
Well, absolutely. And this is this is really what I want to reflect on, like the Ireland that was her Ireland and the Ireland that's my Ireland. And really this is ultimately about place and how identity and language and music and culture emerges from our dwelling and place. And I suppose one of the difficult questions I want to tackle with this work is, you know, are we still connecting and belonging to our place, you know, where our ancestors are buried and feed the ground, you know? And so part of the questions that I have in mind are like, do I eat the same as my grandmother ate? What is my relationship?
We'll be going to nettle soup soon then, will we, Emily? I
am literally going on Friday to harvest nettles with my dad. And I mean, it seems a little cliche, but you have to start somewhere, because me and many people are feeling the distance from our food and a sense of helplessness that I want to counter, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, I think like a direct contact with food and our food chain and a healthy food chain is about adulthood.
Well,
it's like coming into a direct relationship with the earth.
It sounds, sorry to cut across you, Emily, but I'm just keeping one eye on the clock here, and we were a little bit late coming to you.
I have obviously a lot to say about it.
Oh, you have, but it sounds like there's an amazing journey of discovery ahead of you, and I know you're loosely titling your planned research and project Inheritance. But for people who are, and you have a gift of words as well, for somebody who creates in the more physical world, you have a great gift of words. But for people who aren't familiar with your work, is there somewhere we can please tell us about your website, because a lot of your work is captured on video, and people might have might get a great flavour of that. So you might like to tell us about that. And indeed, I believe you have an upcoming project in the not too distant future.
That's true, yeah. So I have a lot of new work that is kind of emerging now and coming to the public. So one opportunity to engage in the real time is on the 1st of July at Dan's House. I'll be doing a work in progress of another new work called A Year of the Heart. And that promises to be a really beautiful experience, and people can come to that.
Where's Dan's House, Emily?
It's on Foley Street in town.
Oh, lovely, yes. A very historical street.
I guess the most dynamic way to, you know, connect with what I'm doing is on Instagram. I post a lot about my process on there. And then I have announcements coming on my website about new work coming in the next week.
And your website is called emilyeven.com. I beg your pardon.
And it's even the Irish name, also sometimes pronounced Aoibheann, Aoibheann.
Emily Even.
So emilyeven.com.
Or another word for Emily Alling, the beautiful Emily, and indeed you are. And so is your work.
It's even Lum Cockamish, you know. It's love.
And I know you have a great affection for and affinity with the music of Heaney Kay, so we're going to go out in a little while with one of her tracks as well. She's beautiful.
She's one of the collaborators on my Markievicz project.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, then we couldn't have chosen better. Emily, can we finish where we started by congratulating you on your award, on being awarded funding for the project? We look forward to it. Enjoy your work, and I know you're artist in residence in Tinnahealy as well. So I hope they realise how lucky they are. Your work is fabulous.
I'm blessed. Thank you so much.
It takes us away to another place, and I'm delighted to know you even at a distance. So continued success to you, and we're delighted to be part of celebrating your success.
And I never even mentioned the whole Blanche influence, but maybe the next time.
We're taking all the credit for that, so don't worry. We'll blow that trumpet on your behalf. And indeed, you describe yourself as having a restless curiosity about ideas, and I think after our little chat there, brief chat, that pretty much sums it up. So thank you for joining us.
Slán go
fóil agus go nairi go gal leat. Slán.